Hi guys, and welcome to episode 27 of SEO Tales, where I'm joined by Itamar Blower once again for the 27th time. So we are going to talk about something we're actually debating. We're like, what we're going to talk about in the next episode? What have we not spoke about? Something that I think is quite I wouldn't say a hot topic. It's been around for a number of years, but featured snippets is what we're going to be talking about today. Now, there's much debate as to how much benefit you actually get from featured snippets and stuff like that. And I'll hold my hands up and say I've been quite lazy trying to go after featured snippets and knowledge panels and adding schema and trying to take up more of the landscape, which is essentially what featured snippets is, what the knowledge panel is, and everything else, FAQ schema and all that stuff. So this topic is going to be only about featured snippets though. And you don't need schema, so I shouldn't have been so lazy. But featured snippets, Itamar, for people who are, maybe not doing a whole lot of stuff on that side of things, what kind of traffic are we getting from this stuff? Is it stuff we should be kicking ourselves for right now, saying we are missing out on a ton, or is it just a little bit, or give us a bit more, from what you've been playing around with? Should I be kicking myself? Is what I want to know, basically.
I feel like you should. I think when it comes to featured snippets, the biggest argument that people had against featured snippets, well, they're like, oh, well, no one's going to click if you've got the whole answer there in a featured snippet in position 0, as they call it, right at the start. It's more prominent on the SERP. Why should we even go for that if it's not going to get clicks? And I think that that's quite an ignorant thing to say, because a lot of the no-click searches are things that are quite simple. If I'm going to put on Google, when did the first man land on the moon or something like that? That's just going to give me a year. We don't need to click on that. That's that. But there are so many searches that people make where featured snippets are still going to help you generate clicks, because you can use them in a way to funnel people into the content. And when you combine that with the fact that featured snippets do have a much bigger prominence on the SERP, it's much more attractive for people to see. So, you can easily generate more clicks. And that's something that I've done for one of my posts where, I was ranking position 6, 7. It was kind of fluctuating for a few weeks at 6 and 7. And then I decided to be smarter about the content. I decided to try and optimize for featured snippets. So what I did was, you go into a post you've got, you think to yourself, what are people going to really be typing in terms of search queries? What's going to be the most popular thing that people type in? And it's usually a question. So you want to tailor it to a question. And once you do that, you just really comprehensively put out an answer before you get into the more detail that obviously you've elaborated it already in the post, but you just want to have that bit there just before you start going into the specifics of the content, where you can pretty much summarize everything that you're going to say. And then that's a perfect way for you to start generating featured snippets. And what I found was, for the query that I was like the most searched query for where I was generating my traffic, there was already a featured snippet there. But the problem with that is that it wasn't entirely relevant to the direct query. And what I mean by that, sometimes you might find the same featured snippets being shown for different queries when the queries are slightly different in terms of the text that they've got there. So as long as you're able to fully answer that query in your content towards the beginning, then you're at a much better position to get featured snippets. And then when I got that, and the one thing you need to really understand about featured snippets is that Google continuously tests different things. So it might take your featured snippet off one time and a few days later put it up slightly differently. That's what happened with mine. So it was up there prominently for about 24 to 30 hours. Then it got taken down, and there were no featured snippets. And then it came back up a day later in a different kind of display. So, that's something else to keep in mind, that sometimes Google, they own your content, essentially. They'll pick and choose what they want to display. But it's still powerful. I managed to get so many more clicks and so much more traffic to that post just from having the featured snippet there.
Yeah. No, I think it's I think for me, the way I look at it now is I've got my website, I've got my content, I've got my social strategy going on, my YouTube and everything else. But I think, when you're in business or whatever you're in, it's all about these other little small things, just that additional, 1,000 clicks a month from a featured snippet or, whatever it might be. And, it's just further optimizing everything that you've already got. And I think it's as I say, it's something I've left kind of to the end as such. And it's something I'm now working on and refining. But similarly to what we actually mentioned yesterday on the show that we done together with the email pop-ups and stuff like that. I'm just like, should I do that? Is it going to be that much value? And I think, that's the thing with featured snippets and everything else. Sometimes you just look at it and go, is it worth the effort to try and grab that? And I think, you've obviously answered that it is. And again, it's the same with other Google things like the GMB stuff. I still know guys that don't even have a GMB. And you're like, dude, for local search, you're missing a massive, massive trick. There's so much traffic that can come from that. And you really should be kicking yourself, which is why I wanted to ask the question. But the cool thing in terms of, what we've established is feature snippets is nothing at all to do with schema. And obviously we know like GMBs works around citations and a bit of click-through rate from local people on your GMB. But what do you feel triggers those feature snippets the most? What one thing? Now, I know you're going to say, well, I don't know, or I've heard different things.
I know.
So what do you think is that one thing that you can give away to people to help them trigger those feature snippets?
I'll tell you what, and it's nothing to do with any tools. It's nothing to do with schema, structured data, anything like that. The one thing you have to do is have good content that you can comprehensively answer a query in 2 paragraphs, and that's it. That's all you need. But the trouble people have, Craig, is they try and look for these other things because they don't think it's that simple. They really don't think it's that simple. They'll try and find ways to, I need to add how-to schema. I need to add FAQ. I need to add this and that. I need to find a tool to do it. I need to manipulate my traffic first. And that's not how it works, because Google, thankfully for us, is developed enough to be able to analyze text, and it knows what type of things you're saying. It's very, very smart at doing that. So I think to answer the question, the one thing that people need to be able to do is you need to just have a good writer on your team. Either do it yourself or get someone who's a good writer who's able to answer that question within 2 paragraphs.
Right. But let's dig a bit deeper into this, right? So it's not just a case of slapping up 2 paragraphs, job done. What does your structure look like? Is it like a header 2 tag you're using and then just 2 snippets? Is it like, whatever it might be, the kind of header of that featured snippet is going to be a header 2 tag, and then the answer is in the 2 paragraphs. How do you structure that out? It can't just be slapping it on and hoping.
No, that's it. That's it. You've got the H2. You've got the H2. It can work with H3. Sometimes if you're listing stuff out, you might want to have the list as H3, so each individual thing, and have content there, because some featured snippets are displayed like that. But you have an H2 there towards the beginning, and that's always going to have to be pretty much an exact match, or as close exact as you can, to the question that somebody's typing in. So you've got that, and then you put 2 paragraphs, 1 or 2 paragraphs of text answering that question as best as you can, but obviously making sure that you're linking as well, that you're using the same kind of words as you're using further down the page when you go into more depth. But honestly, it's as simple as that. And it's, sometimes people, and obviously you ask the question, Craig, you're like, what is the secret formula for this? But, at the end of the day, it's something that's very straightforward, I would say, to put it bluntly. It's very straightforward, but it's exactly that, the H2, and then you can answer that query in a couple of paragraphs. For a lot of featured snippets, that's enough.
I think, in my opinion, not for everything, but for a lot of different things that revolve around SEO, the secret to SEO is there is actually no secret. A lot of this stuff is just real simple stuff. What you said earlier is people are looking for maybe to add how-to schema or some other weird way of trying to achieve that. And of course, someone's probably had a feature snippet because they've done something and somehow Google's just calculated up and said, right, that's the best thing. So here's the featured snippet, to answer that particular query. But I think, people do overcomplicate a lot of this stuff. And for me, that's not just with feature snippets. That goes with link building, on page, just generic on page or internal linking. People start saying, but what about this? And I'm worried about anchor text this, and what else are you doing? As if we've got some secret formula or some crazy ass way of doing something, and you're just like, man, it's just relatively straightforward and easy. Just go and do it. So I think that in terms of feature snippets makes a lot of sense to me. Hopefully, guys that are watching can grab a bit of common sense and just say, let's try it. And obviously it's working for you. And as you say, Google do change the goalposts now and again and maybe lay it out differently, but just keep an eye on it and keep tweaking and do what the competition do as well. Obviously, Itamar's given what he does, but look what other people are doing as well. Don't just believe Itamar. Look at what other guys who've got feature snippets are doing, and I'll probably hedge a bet that they'll be doing very similar to what you're saying, Itamar. But just in terms of verifying your own brain, don't just listen to you. Check what the competition are doing. It's really that simple.
Yeah, I'd say as well, to add to that, when it comes to looking at competition, so think about the posts that you've got on your site. Think about what you've got already, and just do a search. If you're ranking position 7, 8, 9 for a particular query, do a search. See, is there a featured snippet there? Go into that page. See, where is Google getting that from? So look at the content specifically, saying, how is Google generating that? What does it understand about that piece of content? And then you can just take that formula of what that site is doing, make it better, and then you just publish that and update your content. Because, if you're able to steal that, think about how many clicks you're getting from position 8, 9, and you go straight up to the top of the SERP. And I think that's the one thing that's remarkable about featured snippets is how much easier it is to get to a featured snippet as opposed to trying to outcompete and outrank 8 different websites on the SERP. I think that's the most incredible thing about it. You can go from position 9 to position 0, which is something you can't do in a few days from an organic perspective. You can't go from position 9 to position 1 in a few days. So I think that's my final kind of thing to say about that is, you've got to go for it, especially if you are towards the bottom of page 1 for some big time queries.
Yeah, no, it's a great little way to look at it as well, rather than slogging it out, spending thousands on links and everything else that, and maybe 6 months to try and, shake off the competition, or even a year, depending on the keywords. Feature snippet might be that is your way to skipping in at the top, skip that queue if you like. So I think it's a good little strategy to try and implement along the way. But yeah, sadly, that is pretty much all we can really talk about in terms of featured snippets. It's that simple. We don't want to bore you with any more waffle, guys. But thank you again for taking the time to watch. Make sure you do give us a like and a subscribe. Also, make sure you do check out Itamar Blower. Just put that into YouTube search and you'll find his channel. Give him a little bit of love on his channel as well, because he will be rolling out tips like this on a regular basis on his channel, and has been doing so for a while. So check him out as well. But thanks again for taking the time to watch, and we will catch you next week on episode 28.
Cheers.